welcome to another episode of the Personal PR Show. And today we're here with, oh my God, she's one of the people that I admire the most, Eni. Eni, hello, welcome to our community.
Jess. And ciao, guys. I love that. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this conversation with you whenever I am with Jess. I always have so much fun. I just find you so hilarious. I've always told you this.
Oh my God, thank you so much. That is really, really a compliment. It's really flattering me. And I have to say that I'm always happy to see you too. You always have this amazing smile. Do you always smile, or are there moments in your life in which you don't smile, but nobody sees them?
Most definitely, there are a lot of these moments. And actually, a lot of my, essence tends to be more on the melancholic side, romantic, So yeah, I'm definitely not always smiling.
Wow. Okay. Because this is probably something that not a lot of people know about you. Or what do you think? Now we're going into personal branding and reputation, by the way.
Yeah, I think I have mentioned only a few times on my personal, the social media, my relationship with sadness, which is, I would say, quite strong. But I do feel, even getting into the topic of communities quite quickly, I would say, it comes from the fact that I've always had I come from a migrant background, right? So I've always lived a life where I never felt that I fully belonged anywhere. And wherever I am, there's always a piece missing. So I think my melancholic nature does come from the acknowledgement that although I can find that wholeness in my heart, and all Mindvalley peeps will know what I'm talking about, but still in reality, it's like there's always something missing. So that's where it's coming from, Jess.
I totally understand. And by the way, I would like to say something to you. By the way, I'm going to spotlight you for a second because I see that some guests are coming in. So I'm going to spotlight.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got Martina and we have Pallavi as well from India, Martina from Boston. So hello, girls.
Wow.
Yeah, and also on Facebook, we have 3 people that are watching. So we do have already a little community because you're the queen of community. But before we start talking about you and talking about community, Eni, I would like to tell you something. See, Eni?
Yeah, tell me.
Okay, great.
Yeah. You asked me something Albanian. You completely caught me off guard there.
You know why? Because my personal trainer is Albanian from Tirana, and we train every single morning together. This is proof. See all of my, kettlebells and so on. Yes. And she teaches me a little bit of Albanian every single day. So for example, when I'm super tired and after exercising, I say, "O Zot."
Oh my God.
So I'm learning these tiny words in Albanian. Exactly. Awesome. Yes. That's great.
My brain was not expecting that, Jess. It's like I'm prepared to hear Italian from you. I'm prepared for English, maybe even some French, but Albanian, you definitely surprised me.
Right. Okay. I'm very, very happy that I managed to surprise you. That is great. Yes. And we got surprised also by a lovely guest that came on to our Zoom call. So because you are the queen of community, Eni, would you like to get to know our guests? I mean, you're the main guest and then get to know our audience as well. Awesome. So I'm going to bring Martina into the spotlight for a second so you can quickly introduce yourself to Eni. Add spotlight, Martina, and then we'll do the same thing with Pallavi, and then we will come back to the spotlight, to the main spotlight, you and me, Eni, and then we'll start talking about community. But just so we get to know each other a little bit. Martina.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jessica, for this opportunity. So hi, Eni, hi, Pallavi and Jessica. I'm really pleased to be here and hear more about the community building and everything Eni has to share. And yeah, my name is Martina. I'm based in Boston here in the States, and I'm a nervous system coach, emotion coach, and help women in a social media business to thrive and get visible. So thank you.
So cool. Thank you, Martina. Yes, awesome. Martina will certainly have great questions. So we are going to bring Pallavi from India as well into the spotlight. Pallavi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, girls, and Happy New Year to you all. I'm meeting Jessica after a long time. I'm in fact seeing you after a long time. So a little about me. I'm a coach, mentor, a podcaster, and trying to be an author as well. That is in my, to-do list or checklist. And other than that, I just help souls, awaken the healing power and the beauty they have within. So, and I do that through a special type of energy healing called pranic energy healing. So this is the crisper version of me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Yes.
Wonderful.
And yes, Eni, we already know because we have already introduced you to our community, but would you also like to introduce yourself briefly? And then, of course, we have the whole chat, the whole hour or 45 minutes, how much time you have depends. Of course, you will tell us how much time you have. I know that it's a back-to-back day today. But yeah, what should we know about you at this stage of our conversation, right at the beginning?
Very briefly, I've already mentioned it a little bit, but I do find it very important for what I'm going to share, my passion for community. I'm a very proud daughter of migrants. My family is from Albania. I was raised in Italy. And since then, in my 30 years of life, I have lived in 3 different continents. So I then didn't stop the migration journey. I kept on going. So that's something that definitely has shaped a lot of my identity, but also shaped a lot my search for belonging, as I was sharing earlier. I followed my love at the time when I was 23 to Brazil, and then I moved on a completely other side of the world, and then moved to Malaysia to join Mindvalley HQ. So to then from Malaysia, I'd completely not expected it, but then I moved to Estonia a few years ago, so back to Europe. So it's been an interesting ride in this world so far, this big planet we live in. And yeah, my big passion is community. Obviously, a lot of what I do is actually driven by some of my big childhood wounds, the fact that I never felt fully a sense of belonging. I always wish I could have been something else than I was. Growing up in Italy as an Albanian in the 90s was not exactly cool kid status. So I did face quite early what it meant to be, object of prejudice and, issues around race, ethnicity, and all of that. So that always made me quite aware since I was young on social issues. And that's where my international journey started. And that's the core of me, I would say.
Yes, this is amazing. Oh my God, there's so many comments, so many questions already. But I think the first question would be, what got you started on your journey, on your community building journey? So we know the background, right? But what were the first steps in, let's say, in professional terms?
I started working in community when community was not a thing. At the time, the closest thing to community was forum moderators. Community was not even a profession. So my very first role in community was actually when I was 15, and I was working with the Ministry of Education in Italy at the time to launch the first network nationwide for high school students. So, I was one of those weird kids that instead of enjoying the summer break, I would be online on the forum of this network called Io Studio for the Italians. And I was, starting to engage with students there, coming up with discussion topics. So that was like my very first step in community. But then, interesting story, I studied international relations because I wanted to work at the UN or European Parliament. 100% stereotypical girl who wanted to change the world and, get into international politics. And while I was doing this, I actually realized that I didn't really like a lot of my people I was studying with, because I realized a lot of them were quite cynical about the world, and that's not why I wanted to get in this work in the first place. And I studied international relations. When I finished, I joined this competition that was called Your Big Year. And the promise was the following: the winner is going to represent Generation Y/the millennials. One winner going to travel the world, all expenses paid, 5 continents, working in social entrepreneurship project. So it sounded a dream come true. I entered the competition. There were 60,000 participants. I made it to the top 25. And in the process of getting selected for the finals, so between the semifinals and the finals, I got to meet the CEO of the network. So that was also, by the way, one of my very first lessons in life about the power of networking and being very audacious with your ask. So I met the founder of the company, and because I had been in the competition, I had actually seen a few things that had potential to make the network grow even further. So I asked if we could meet for a coffee. We did. And after this conversation that was meant to be a 30 minutes one and turned into a 3 hours one, he offered me my first job in community. So he said, you know what? It's going to be a hard ask, but what if you drop off the competition and you start working for us and you start taking care of this network that had inspired me so much at the time, because it was the opposite of the reality that I was living in. Like, I was living in London. London is in many ways, I would say, quite a materialistic city as well. Like, people go there, career, success, money, all of that. And here I was in this network where people actually had passion and drive, and they were opening NGOs and writing books. And I love that. It like reawakened my fire for life. So of course I said yes, dropped out of the competition, turned down my first job, my first offer on a UN agency. So turned down my big dream of working at the UN. And that's how I started. This was 2013. And at the time, as I said, community was not a profession. Like, people were not doing community. And it was a bit of a bet. I don't know. I read an article at some point somewhere that said community managers was going to be one of the most in-demand professions in the future. So okay, why not? I seem to like this. And that's how it started, basically.
Wow, this is amazing. That was 10 years ago. You were only 20 years old. Wow. Yeah. And you've built so much all over the world, basically, over the past 10 years. Congratulations, by the way, on being so audacious and just texting, not just texting, like writing the CEO and asking him for a coffee meeting. Wow. At the age of 20, super courageous. I am very, very cheeky and I ask everybody for coffee, but I wouldn't have been able to do that at 20 years old. So well done. That is so
well,
cool.
I thought I had some leverage, because I had made it to the semi-finalists. So it was an easier ask for me, I have to say. It didn't feel that crazy audacious.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so we talked about community, but what does it mean to be a community builder, head of community, in your case, global head of community, to be precise? What does your job entail? You have a team, of course. And what do you guys do?
At a high level, I would say we could talk about two definitions of community, one a more general one and one for business. But inside of Mindvalley, where I like the easiest way to explain it is, if you build a product or a business that is good and that delivers on its promise, there are going to be very high chances that the people that go through it will want to give back in some form. It's natural human being behavior. Like, you deliver a great experience, people in some way are going to want to give back to you. So from a business perspective, community is the role where you start understanding, how can I leverage this energy that exists in my customer base and turn it into business value for the company. So that's like talking strictly business. If I were to present to my exec team, I would say that's what you do. You understand the intersection that exists between what your members need and where they want to contribute and where the business is going. Is there any place where those two can match and where the members can continue growing the relationship with the company while the business benefits from the contribution that they're giving? So this would be like the dry one. On a more human perspective, I would say that any company, again, or a product that you build does have an element that will bring people together. Like, at the end of the day, you're bringing together people that have the same challenge, the same desire to grow, that are coming to you probably for the same reason. So creating that sense of belonging where you know you're not alone in your journey, number one, already fulfills a great business value because your customers get to feel less alone in whatever challenge they're going through. But also on a more societal level, I would say, we are living through a time where it's not that easy to experience community. And even in your adult life, it's very hard. Where do you make new friends? If you've finished with uni and your job is not really the place where you're going to find friends, communities online are starting to fill in that place because you can really talk to people who are niched in specific type of interest. So I would say at a human level, community really provides an opportunity to create spaces of belonging where you don't need to translate yourself. And the fact that we are doing it online nowadays allows us, for example, Jasmine, you have met in an online community, right? Doing a program together. And it was exactly like, most of us were women. We all had a business that we wanted to grow. We all had similar values. We all wanted to do it in our own terms. We wanted to keep our life work balance in a certain way. Like this really feels like my community. And that's the potential that businesses have nowadays of bringing together people that really share that niche of values, interests, challenges, and desire for growth. In my day-to-day, I would say, again, getting quite technical, it's how do you start deepening the relationship that every customer has with your brand and doing that in a way that delivers value. So we look at, and on a business level, we look at how can community increase retention of our customers? How can we keep them longer in the ecosystem? How can we create such an amazing experience that they will want to keep investing in this ecosystem? So it's studying all of these data points and understanding how can we use human dynamics to drive business value while fulfilling the promise that we have as a brand.
Yes. Oh my God, what an exhaustive answer. It was amazing. Oh my God, there would be so much to unpack, but what I really liked was the human aspect, to be honest. Yes.
Awesome. What I like the most as well.
Absolutely. And the whole part about the values, because values are something that really can bring people together. Absolutely. I love this. Wow. And I'm sure that Martina has a question right now because I know her very well. And I'm sure that at this point of the conversation, she already has one of her amazing questions. So Martina, I'm going to bring you into the spotlight to ask you a question. One of the many questions that you certainly have.
No pressure, Martina.
No, thank you. That was really very interesting to hear, from where you started and where you are right now. And I love everything about community because, I'm building my own brand, personal brand, and one of my goals is community building. So my question would be, what can we do when we are starting out to build a community? What would you recommend would be something to focus on, what to watch out for? Anything that you could share with us would be amazing.
Thank you, Martina. And Jessica, you were right. That was a great question. It's also one of the questions that I get the most. People always ask, where do you start? And I would say the answer is more simple than we think. I think, Jessica, you're a great example for this. There are a lot of people who want to have a community, but they're not willing to be in the community. And what I mean by that is there's no community that was ever built on any value that is not generosity. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, you have to give, you have to give, you have to give. And people will understand very quickly, and this is the biggest mistake I always see a lot of creators or coaches or even big brands do. Are you building the community because you want to benefit from it? Like, are you building it because you want to use it, or you are actually building it because you really see a need there? And that's the biggest mistake. It's people start a community because they want to have more leads, because they want to, maintain the relationship with the customer and all of the business reasons that I gave already. But the idea starts from a vacuum. It's not an actual need that they're serving. And whenever we're thinking about any customer that you want to attract, time is their most valuable resource. So understanding is the offering that I'm making with the community, not my product, with the community, what's the need that it is fulfilling? And is community the best way to deliver that? Because maybe, let's say, a lot of people join communities initially because they want to access certain knowledge or some expertise, or they have a problem, they go into a community, they ask a question, they get an answer, and they leave. That could also be fulfilled by a blog. That could also be fulfilled by a social media post. The art of building community is when your customers are interacting with one another. Otherwise, you have a network, you have an audience, you have something else. And understanding, designing a journey where they actually benefit from the interaction with one another almost as much as from the interaction with the person who started the community or has the expertise around the community, that's something that gets always underestimated. People always think, oh, I have something valuable to say, so let me create a Facebook group and invite everybody around it. And I'm going to do my, personal show in the group. But then you're building an audience. And why should I spend time interacting with Martina and Jessica? And why should Jessica also interact with Martina and me? Like, how do you build a journey where they grow through the relationships that they're creating, and not just through the content that you are sharing? Because then there's no need for a community. And this is not easy. Like, me and Jessica have been on a few journeys together right now, and I do community for a living, but I haven't done a community for my own self and my own brand yet, because I take very seriously the time that it's going to require, particularly initially, to give. That's going to be a high investment when you start. And if people are not willing to do that, then just forget it. Like, don't do it. Don't even waste your time. If you don't have 3 hours a day, 2 to 3 hours a day that you can dedicate to give generously to who is there and build a relationship with who is there, don't start a community, start a blog, start a newsletter, start something else. And then understanding the need. Like, to me, that's a big question. And that's why I haven't started yet, because I don't want to create a group where I'm the only one talking. I want to create a group where people are giving to one another, and there's a specific need that we are addressing. So understanding that it's a simple concept, but it's not easy, if that makes sense. So I would say watch out for these mistakes that people do, wanting to use the community but not being willing to build the community, and that takes time. It's like relationships, it's like dating. If you want to build a relationship with someone, you're gonna invest. Of course, there's gonna be a point in the relationship where you're not like 24/7 thinking about the person and how do I nurture these, and when it's starting to go in a more sustainable way. But the beginning, it's very high investment. And there's no clear return on investment, which is also the other mistake I've seen a lot of brands that I've consulted with do. They want results. They're like, okay, we do it in 3 months. I want to know what's the dollar value of each lead, how much can we generate on each name. And it's like, I've made the mistake of saying yes at the beginning of my career because I really wanted the clients, but now I would never ever say yes to something like this, because if you have that rush, it's like someone asking you what's the ROI on a relationship you're gonna build. Sometimes it's gonna show 2 years down the line, sometimes never, sometimes within a month. You can't know. So I would say when starting, these are some of the most common mistakes that I see. And a lot of people start because they want a community that serves them, not because they want to serve the community. It's a completely different logic.
Absolutely. Oh my God, Eni, Martina, I'm just going to talk for 20 seconds. Eni, I love what you said, like everything about it, of course, but especially when you said, building an audience is not the same thing as building a community. I have so many students that come up to me and say, I'm building my community on Instagram. And I'm like, no, these are just followers. It's just a following that you have, just an audience that they have. They can't really communicate with one another except then in the comments, but it's not a real interaction. That's why I wanted to, start a Facebook group where people can really, communicate with one another. They can post themselves in the group. It's like the content is not generated only by me, it's generated by everybody else. And of course, course, we're trying to, prompt them into producing content as well. For example, introducing themselves when they are new to the community, but also, for example, we have a lot of challenges with prizes every single month in order for them to generate content, to, get the exposure that they're seeking as well, and get the interactions and the networking possibilities, the opportunities among each other. So thank you so much for confirming that, because sometimes my students kill me when I say, no, you're not building, on Instagram, you're just building an audience. It's not a proper community, right? Exactly.
100%. Yes, I back you completely here.
Thank you very, very much. You need an audience as well, don't get me wrong, but community is really something else, and you can't build it on Instagram or on these platforms where you can just have followers, right? Yeah. So I've talked for more than 20 seconds. I apologize. Martina, what did you want to say? Sorry, I got so excited about this.
No, thank you, Jessica, reflecting back what Eni was saying. And I was just, it was such a good answer, and I'm so grateful I asked it, and that you were, giving so many examples, because first of all, you really differentiated between audience and community, and that community is something that grows organically over time, and that there's a lot of investment and a lot of giving from the one who wants to build it. And that landed really so well with me, and I loved it. Whatever you said, it was just like, wow, because, and also that you shared that why you haven't started your own, right? And I think that is that just shows that there is so much more to it, even though it sounds kind of simple. But I mean, yeah, giving the value and not expecting anything in return, I think it's something that trips most people up, and also differentiates the ones who will be successful and the ones who might fall off, because the community is more than an audience, or more people like taking than actually also contributing to the audience, also to the community. So thank you, that was really great.
I'm glad that was useful, Martina. And I absolutely, I know a lot of people want to start communities, and it's a big buzzword right now. And something else to be aware of is, I really want to reiterate this, when you start a community, the majority of people that are going to join at the beginning is because of your name, right? So it's because of the credibility that you have, right? I'm showing up here because of Jess. Then Jess' job is going to be for me to find other people that will keep giving me reasons to come back beyond her, right? But at the very beginning, I'm talking, and the very beginning sometimes can be 3, 6, even 9 months. At least 50% of the activities inside of the community will be generated either by the founder or the community manager, if someone has the money to hire a community manager. So it is an investment that requires time. And it is an investment. One of the reasons why community is becoming so big right now, just to talk big money now and possibilities for that. A few months ago, Figma was acquired by Adobe. Now, Figma is a software that designers use. And it was a very interesting case in business, because Adobe could have just copied and pasted what Figma had done, but what Figma had built was an incredible community around it. And the acquisition was 20 billions.
See how much, like, it can translate into net worth directly, right?
It takes time. It takes time. Now, this is a very interesting case, because Figma, actually, the founders, they saw an opportunity in the market, but they were not designers themselves, right? So what they did was they saw the need, going back to the need. They created a community around it that could inform them on how to build a better product. So they literally built with the community in secret. Like at the beginning, nobody knew Figma was getting started. And this was one of the most incredible examples of a community building, because it was really at the center, really the understanding that this company would have never started if it wasn't for a community of people who was willing to give feedback around it, right? So that was a fascinating example that really shook the business world.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And I see that Martina is already taking notes about this. It's amazing. Yes. Martina, is it okay if I bring Pallavi into the spotlight? And then if you have further questions and we still have time, then you're welcome to come back. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you, Martina. I love the question.
Yes. Okay, Pallavi, Pallavi from India, what is your question to Eni? For Eni?
Yeah, so when you were mentioning this Adobe example of them acquiring this company, so what came to my mind is they had the same equivalent of email list that we call. So if there were 1 million subscribers, so 1 million email list. So they basically bought the leads along with the community that they were nurturing, right?
I think it's even a bit more complex than that, because so Figma really started building advocates. So much so, this is one of the very few examples of a company that I know that had their B2B marketing done through the community. Imagine how strong this was. So say that you were a designer and you were getting hired in Uber. And as a potential new hire, a lot of them started saying, I'm not joining the company unless you guys start adopting Figma. That is the level of loyalty that was built. So that's where I'm saying it's not just, you can't just say that it was a lead. These were advocates. Like, that's the power of building a community. People go crazy for brands. It's like, they associate themselves with the brands, and it's a huge opportunity right now, because so many of the structures that we used to associate ourselves with, like families, our place of origin, or our religion, like these were the things that were defining our identity. Now that we live in such a liquid society where if people ask me where I'm from, it takes 5 minutes for me to answer. I don't associate myself to a specific religion. Even my own family cannot provide me full belonging anymore, because I'm living completely different life. There's so many references that are missing. So people are looking for identity. People are looking for places where they identify themselves in the values that are offered. And Figma, I don't know exactly what were the core values that they were building their identity of being a Figma member, but it was so successful that a lot of people started opening like B2B possibility by just saying, I'm not going to work here unless you guys adopt Figma. That's huge. And that's the one thing that cannot be replicated. Adobe, as I said, could have copied the model, but they could not copy their enthusiasm and that loyalty to the brand.
Some intangible things. And when you were talking about Instagram and, all these groups that, I had been putting all my efforts into Instagram and, trying to build a community, which Jessica said are just followers. I had been giving so much of educational content and all of that. But yeah, there's not that kind of a connect that, would come when you are. So I had not been focusing at all on my groups that I have on Facebook. I was just pushing on my energy. So I think I need to, this was an eye opener, like how important community is and how deep we have to nurture our, let's say would-be clients, in the future, but at least now they're like your babies or your family and you have to nurture them so much. So yeah, that was an eye opener for me.
I'm very glad. And if I could go even deeper on that, I think, as I said, it's really, community is a game where you turn the spotlight from what you know and what you want to share to understanding it's an exercise of listening, like what's there, what are they needing in this moment. And even the conversation shifts a lot from what I'm here to give at times to what they are needing to talk about in this moment, even if it's not aligned with what I'm here to give right now. So it's not that straightforward, and conversations will always happen when people will feel like they are creating that reality that they're part of rather than they're passively consuming. And that's where it's so hard on Instagram as well, because the nature of the platform is that of passive consumption, is not of active contribution. Yeah. Facebook groups can be very helpful in this way. I've seen extraordinary engagement when we were using Facebook groups, but the spotlight has always been on them. How do we get them to share? How do we get them to open up? How do we get them to show up authentically? It's never been on what are we gonna say, if that makes sense. So it's starting a community, it's easy, but designing a community, that's where that can take a lot of iterations until people start responding, because you really have to nail a reason for them to come back and to want to contribute and to want to share and to want to give away something that they have. And that's really not easy, particularly where we are right now. People get pulled in so many different directions all times.
And I think the other groups that we can see after Facebook groups for interacting more with your community can be your podcast platforms, your Clubhouse. What are the other platforms that we can think of for building communities?
There are quite a few. There's a very good network for creators, I would say, for people who want to build community. It's Mighty Networks. It's a great, it's a great platform, including a lot of our authors in Mindvalley do use Mighty Networks for their own business. I would definitely recommend it. And it's also for smaller, that you don't have to be a giant and pay a huge amount of money to have that platform. Particularly if people want to build more high-end exclusive communities, cohort-based or anything like that, other than Facebook, I would definitely recommend Mighty Networks. And there are incredible trainings as well available there for people building communities. So if you want to go deeper on the topic, it's available for free. And I find that a great resource that they offer.
Perfect. Those were my questions.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Eni, do you know who's here?
I saw Lucy. I'm not seeing you and not making an ask for you to turn on the camera if that's not what you want now, but I'm very happy to see your name. I got a huge smile on my heart when I saw your name online. So thank you for joining us, Lucy.
Awesome.
So talking of community again, like this is the community that we were all part of, Lucy, me and Jessica, with other incredible women, and the bond remains there even if the program has ended.
Yes, it's good to have half of that community here with us. We're missing Tanya, of course, and another two amazing ladies, but three. But three of us are here. So Lucy, do you have any questions around the community for Eni?
If I may, I missed the beginning. So maybe you have already talked about it, but what I'm interested in, if it hasn't been said yet, I would like to tie those two expertises of yours, Eni's, and yours, Jessica. When you are building a personal brand that doesn't have clearly defined the offer yet, I see it as a huge opportunity how to actually leverage the community building to get that feedback, what that community actually needs. Yet at the same time, I would like to hear perspectives on that topic from both of you. How to tie, let's say that I start from scratch with both these linked avenues. How to tie it together in a sense that I'm not a big company, or I am not, selling software, or I'm not selling education. I'm basically me, my one-woman show. Does it even make sense to start the community from scratch and try to offer the value based on my values, which is something that I can clearly stand up for at the moment? Or am I complicating it too much and there is a way that I just do not see, if that makes sense?
Thank you, Lucy. Jess, you want to say something?
No, if you want to go first, I can talk later. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it can be simple, right, Lucy? But you do have to, there has to be some understanding of what's the need you want to solve. Like, imagine it's like you invite people over to your home. There has to be an invitation. What are you gathering them in your home about? Is it your birthday? Is it that you're launching a book? Is it that you want to spend an evening with friends talking about X, Y, and Z? Is it going to be a fun game night? So people, if you invite them to a space that you're curating, it's not that different from inviting them to your home, right? There has to be clarity on the gathering. Why am I being invited to participate here? What am I going to do? What am I going to talk about? Am I wanted? Do I belong? Do I fit? So sometimes just with the invitation, it becomes clear, like, okay, we're doing a girls' night, we're going to watch a romantic movie, and we're going to cry out our feelings eating ice cream. Awesome. Like, I know exactly. And that has to be there, I would say. So even if the product is not exactly defined, for example, in my case, I'm still not 100% sure what's the product that I want to have, but probably if I were to start a community, it would be around women who want to really feel their femininity even when they are in corporate jobs, right? Or just understanding their needs at the beginning, because I still want to understand exactly what the language that I would want to use there. But it would be, hey girls, like, this is for all of us who find themselves in very masculine roles and a lot of directing. And I want to create a space where we can open up about what it feels like to have to prove your value all the time, what it feels like to be in a highly masculine environment, and what are some of the practices and tips we can share with one another. So I would say that's the key. And you don't need big numbers for that. You don't need a big company. Actually, I would say the more authentic and the closer it is to a need you want to solve, the more intimately you know that need, the higher chances you will have of creating a true community. Jess, what do you think?
That is awesome. I totally resonate with what you've just said, Eni. So I think when it comes to personal branding, I see that the main items are values, like you mentioned as well, also a few minutes ago, and also your story, right? And actually, even if you don't have an offering, this is something that you have. This is something that is actually connected to you, to your person, values, and a story. So another thing that I would add to personal branding, because to me, personal branding is very important, but and it's amazing, but I feel that I don't feel complete with personal branding. Also, for myself and when I work with clients, I always want to bring a breakthrough idea, which is basically thought leadership into this, right? So what is that breakthrough idea? And that breakthrough idea actually will inform everything. And I really, really recommend to, to really focus and actually get visibility for your values, for your story, and for your breakthrough idea early on, even before you figure out a product market fit. Actually, that will help you figuring out the product market fit. This is something that we know, if we are a new entrepreneur, if we have a startup, it could be a company, a personal brand, it could be whatever, maybe even just starting a community, I don't know. It will take some time to figure out the product market fit, right? What is it that you're offering, and what is it that people really need in that particular niche, in that particular industry, right? It will take you a few pivots, a few iterations. So during that time, I don't recommend doing the so-called product PR. So I don't recommend looking for visibility for the product or service that you're trying to sell or to propose to the market, because that is too early, because you don't know yet if they are really interested in that product or service. Mm-hmm. What you can do is actually build personal PR in the meantime, which to me is much more than building a personal brand, because that entails also, thought leadership with your breakthrough idea, your let's say intellectual property that we want to codify earlier on. And that is something that will be the common denominator of all of the iterations that you will do in the early stages of your business or a personal brand or whatever it is, right? So this is something that I usually recommend. And then of course, a big part of personal PR is also your network. So we really have to bring everything together, and it's not enough values or story. It's not enough the breakthrough idea. It's also the network that you bring. And this is something that will also be always the common denominator. I can talk about this for days, as Martina knows, but I'm going to shut up here. Okay. I hope that helps.
Definitely helps. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Lucy. Lovely seeing you, by the way.
Yeah, it's amazing to see you all too. And even the new faces, just to be fully transparent. That I'm not favoritizing. Is it a word? Yeah, I will make it a word.
Yeah, that is
Can I have an additional question to that arose from what you both said? Building a community around my personal PR, if I just summarize it, and also knowing that it would make it so much easier to know what is the purpose of the party that I'm inviting people on. would you still recommend building the community in that sort of group setting, Facebook sense, or do you think that there is a point which it doesn't really make sense until I figure something out? Or is it like, if I know my values, because that's the thing that I can build on right now, and if I know my story and all these things that will never change but evolve, does it make sense to build the initial party and invite that existing network to that around? I don't know how much concrete I can be here to make it still applicable for as large audience as possible. But is it like, does it make sense to just, let's say, talk about Facebook groups, create a Facebook group around, okay, can I be like specific?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. One of my things that is with me my whole life, or two things basically, is gratitude and photography. And they both linked together as a healing modality or tool for anything that I'm going through my life. And it doesn't matter what it is. And if I know that gratitude and photography are the things that I'm true to, and which, genuinely the gratitude is more of the value, photography is just a tool. So if I leave out the photography and start with the gratitude and build a community, let's say, around sharing daily gratitude, or what can we be grateful for, and then maybe start incorporating bits of pieces of my own story and my journey, and weave into that the photography aspect as well, and then obviously get the feedback if it resonates or if it doesn't resonate, and take it from there. And when I know that my big why is that it seems to me that there is too much unnecessary suffering in the world, and it's, in my opinion, it's mostly because we do not appreciate enough what we've got already, and then we are stuck on things that eventually don't really matter that much, which doesn't mean that there is not a lot of crap around, but I think that there is a lot of things that we do to ourselves unnecessarily. So if I build a community based on the belief that life is amazing and it's amazing to experience it in its fullness, the depths and the breadth and the highs and lows and everything in between, is it like too vague, or is it something that I can lead with, and then the product and the offering will actually eventually, if I listen, emerge from that? Or should I just shut up for a while? Pardon my French, I didn't realize that I'm public now. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
When you speak, Lucy, what I hear is an opportunity, instead of building a community around a belief, is to build a community around the practice in your case. So it could be, and again, you can start, you don't even have to start on Facebook. What about you put together like a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group with even 3 friends, or, they're like, ladies or whatever, guys, we're going to have this group together. And I know all of you have the intention of being more grateful, because I've found this in the conversations we've had together. And I don't know, even just we're going to start sharing 3 pictures every day of something we're grateful for. There is definitely a potential for that. My answer is absolutely yes. Doesn't have to be the way that I told you right now. I know a friend of mine has created a community around the concept of being 1% better every day. Like, what's something that you've done today to be 1% better? And then obviously she infuses that with her knowledge as a coach and all of it. So there are endless opportunities. I think starting small and starting intimate and starting with relationships that you already have, and focus, like, this is the other mistake people always do. Don't think about, when I scale, when I grow, forget that. At the beginning, focus on things that don't scale, like show up in ways that don't scale at the beginning, because you will figure out the rest later. But my short answer would be yes. And particularly if you have the time to really be present for those conversations that happen in the group and to go deeper, then there's a great opportunity to understand better the market fit. And with these, I also want to say, Jess, that I do have to jump out really quickly of the conversation. Time has been flying out.
We've been talking for a full hour nearly. Yes, thank you so much, Eni, for making the time for us today. It was amazing, so enriching and so much fun at the same time. So yeah, good luck with everything. We know that we have so many projects. You're going to rock this year, as you always do with every year. And thank you so much again.
And thank you, ladies. Thank you so much, Martina, Lucy, and Pallavi for the interactions, Jessica for creating the space and the invitation. I love that. And looking forward to more time where I get to see all of your beautiful faces.
Absolutely. Come back to the Person PR show this year, sometime this year when you have 5 minutes. Stay tuned. All the best.
So much.
Bye, Eni. Bye, girls. Bye.
Bye.